Evening, and welcome to the Wednesday, July 9th, 2025 meeting of the Dudley Planning Board. At this time, I'd like to inform everybody this meeting is being recorded and ask everyone to join and stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, new business. First item on the agenda is planning board reorganization. We're actually waiting on one member. He's going to be a little late this evening, so without objection, I'm going to pass that over for now. We can revisit it. Seeing no objection. Move on to approval of minutes for June 11th, 2025 and June 25th, 2025. We'll probably take those as individual.
Yeah.
Do June 11th first. Anybody have a problem with the June 11th meeting minutes?
If we give folks a chance to review those further, but I would make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we approve the June 11, 2025 meeting minutes as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Yes. Second. All right, we have a second. All those in favor? Aye.
At that meeting?
No, I don't think we
Yeah, it was. Aye.
Okay.
Yeah, you were. Okay.
All right.
Well, half a row.
All right, and now we've got the June 25th meeting minutes.
Chairman, I would move that we accept the June 25th, 2025 minutes as presented.
Okay, we have a motion.
Abstain, I wasn't here. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I think we have
Carries.
copies to your right, Mr. Chairman.
Gotcha. Who brought these in? I was looking for these a second ago.
Or, what they did. She said she was walking around, man.
Right.
Those are what I think
Go
they
ahead,
are,
get
right?
started on that one.
Yeah. Just to make sure that we get the right stuff here.
Now, let me count my pen walked off.
That's June 11th. That's June 25th. Needed two copies, right?
Thought I took it out already.
June 25th twice. A writing implement there, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I had, I already had it out.
So one copy or two?
Two.
Cross out there. Pretty much. No.
Just making sure there wasn't anything else attached to that ID.
I think we'll end up with two each at some point.
This one. This one.
Yep. And that's it. Okay. Thomas Susan did for that one, but it's Edmonds.
Oh, yeah.
No, his name's on all of them.
Oh, okay.
I just crossed it off and wrote my name
All
on
right.
it. There's-
That'll work.
She was here too, but I guess that doesn't matter.
All set. Great, thanks. So we got, let's see. Copies. And two copies. Excellent. Put these back in. Takes care of that. Approval of minutes all set. All right, appointment of an alternate planning board member. You guys want to talk about that now, or do you want to push that off with the reorganization?
I vote for Dan Evanston.
Yeah, so,
Do we have to advertise it first, though?
well, yeah, so that question came up. We still haven't gotten an answer, but, I was talking to Laura about it. She said, she's a former town clerk. She says traditionally, we've never, for the planning board, we've never advertised it that way. And our rules say that the planning board is the board that actually makes that appointment, so,
Was that a motion then? Nope, I'll second that.
okay. And just for the record, in case anybody didn't hear, he did reach out and say that he would be interested
Yeah, I
in
was
taking
gonna
the
ask.
position. So, right.
Make sure you check
Yeah.
with him before we vote him in.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
For,
yep. Okay. All right, next item on the agenda, Vice Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself. This is the water runoff, John and Diane Billis, 37 Sawmill Road. And rejoin momentarily.
All right. John and Diane Billis, that you were here with us this evening? Mr. Chair, don't go too far.
Okay, all right.
Table
It
that.
doesn't look like the parties involved are in attendance, at least not at this point, so they may show up at a later time. Hold that in a moment, I think.
Okay. All right, continuation of the public hearing. So at this time, we're going to continue the public hearing regarding the personal wireless service facility for 2 Carroll Drive, applicant Diamond Communications LLC and Celco Partnership DBA Verizon Wireless. All right. Without objection, at this time, I would ask Mr. Michael Lawton from Isotrope. He's the professional we
hired.
peer review to come up and give his summary. I know I emailed you gentlemen the latest version, and I'm not sure what they used for a editor over there, but those little purple flags, if you clicked on them, you could see part of the response, but you couldn't see the whole thing. So anyways, good evening, Mike.
Hi. Yes, Michael Lawton, Isotrope Wireless, and probably the best thing to do, since there was a preliminary report that I wrote. Well, let me go back and start with, I reviewed the video of the previous meeting on this, as well as all the application documents. Wrote a report, provided it to the board and as well to the applicant. They came back with some responses, which were those little purple notes that were in the PDF document, which was a logistical problem of mine. I gave them the wrong document to mark up. So here we are, and probably the best thing to do, rather than walk through the whole report that I wrote, is just to hit the highlights of the questions that I asked and where the answers to those stood, unless the board has any questions before I even get started.
Well, if you want to go down that list, and then at the end of it, if there's something we have that wasn't on the list, do it that way.
Sure, yeah. So I'll just run, there were, the first question I had asked was about the bands of operation, the frequency bands and the technologies of each band. Received an answer to that, and that was acceptable. The hardware that was going to be, that was proposed to be deployed on the tower, radio heads, antennas, that sort of thing, that was answered as well. The EME calculations using the bands that were described, that was provided and seems in order. The board, one of the members of the board had asked about propagation plots of Chase Mill at its current estimated height, and those were provided. I also asked about doing a hypothetical at Chase Mill to see if raising above the existing height would be possible and might alleviate or might resolve a problem. That wasn't provided, but because of the location of the site, it's unlikely that it would be useful. One of the former members of the board had a question about a retaining wall. I think we're kind of figuring out that there is no retaining wall.
I spoke with him today. I actually called. I called him, and then I didn't get him, and I didn't even leave him a voicemail, but he saw that I called, and he called me back, and I explained the situation. He says that he may have been mistaken, that he saw something on the plan that he thought was a retaining wall. And since you brought it up, though, I did want to find out about the slope there. So, as you gentlemen may recall, there's a pretty steep slope that's right off the backside going down to the wetlands there. That's what Dan was talking about, where he thought he saw something regarding a retaining wall. Contour lines are really close together. Ends up being about a 14-foot drop over about 35 feet of horizontal run, so it's pretty steep. But they're also showing the silt fence and the other precautions they're going to be taking during construction are up at the top, right behind it. So it appears to me that they have no intention of actually going on that slope. So I just wanted to, could one of you maybe just verify that for the record that, yep, yes, sure, you got the site plan.
Yes, that's correct. We're keeping all disturbance outside of the tow.
So just again, for the record, could you restate, I know you were here and
Yeah.
you did this once, but already,
Yes, we need you to sign
we
it
might
as
have new
well.
people here, so.
Yeah, my name is Danielle Leonore with Kimley Horn at 271 Waverly Oaks in Waltham, Massachusetts. We are the civil engineer on this project, and we can confirm that all of the proposed development remains outside of the Tove slope. So we will not be touching the slope, having any construction on that slope. We will remain away from that throughout construction and permanent condition.
Okay, excellent. All right, go ahead, Mike, continue.
The next one, the next item was the height justification. Some plots were provided, and I don't know if there's a way to show them. I think you all have the plots that were provided by email, the second set.
We have some on boards too.
Oh, okay, all right. So maybe we'll get back to that.
We get to them, sure.
And then the balloon flight and the explanation, the report of the balloon flight was the next item. I did receive the report this afternoon, and I think you all have received the report on the balloon flight, I hope. Then there was a question about the finish of the pole and any equipment on the pole, whether it was to be painted, what color, whether the pole was to be painted or the equipment was to be painted or both were to be painted, and whether it was to be galvanized. And I think that's a matter that really is between the applicant and the board to agree on some kind of finish or acceptable finish for the structure and for the equipment on the structure. Whatever fits the neighborhood or fits the area would be appropriate. But there should be some kind of definition of what, since there is in the town code a requirement for light gray or light blue, that either should be what is done or waived, if that's not what's going to be done. There was a question about the ground equipment and the fence height. It looked like there was possibly a typo on the plans that showed the fence being of variable height. One place it showed 6 feet, one place it showed 8 feet. It turns out the intended fence height is 8 feet. And as long as the equipment is not mounted on elevated platforms for any reason, then the top of the equipment should be below that shielding in that fence so that it can't be seen from outside, which I think is the intent of the safety and visibility fencing around the equipment.
Am I correct in that, assuming that the latest plan that you received showed the correction of the typo, so now it shows an 8-foot fence?
Correct.
No.
It's 8
Okay.
It's where it said 6. It's now showing 8.
Okay.
I requested a FAA filing tow air, not necessarily an FAA analysis, and that was provided. Shows that the tower at the proposed height doesn't need to be lit per FAA requirements, which is important to know whether it needs lighting or not. It was wet. There are obviously wetlands on site. I asked if there was an order of conditions, worked out with the Conservation Commission and with the Dudley Conservation Commission. That was provided. And the last question was, in your code, it says that all utilities on site need to be buried underground. And the plans didn't reference, the plans that were initially provided didn't reference that the utilities would be buried from the street to the compound. And the subsequent plans, I think it's version 3, show buried or trenched utilities. So those were the items that I brought up. There's a couple that are still sort of, I mean, obviously the height justification is the sort of a board matter for the board to review, whether the provided information on the height justification is sufficient. I can talk through the plots and explain any of that, and I think they have an engineer here as well who could do the same, but if you'd like an unbiased explanation, I can do that. And the balloon fly report, I think, was it you that asked about the balloon fly in the last meeting? Yeah, so that, you've received the report. And I believe that's the extent of it.
Okay, so regarding the explanation about the coverage, what do we call them, plots?
Yep.
I know that last time, at the last meeting, we had Avilio Santalongo, I'm probably going to slaughter that name, from C-Square was here, and he gave the presentation with the thing with all the colors. And so he explained to us what kind of coverage we get, cell coverage we get in that area of town without the tower. And then he showed the map showing how greatly improved the coverage would be in that area with the tower at 150 feet. Now, our bylaws state that maximum height is held at 90 feet, and you folks are requesting that we allow a tower to 150 feet. And we understand that obviously 150 feet is going to give you much better coverage than 90 feet. The question I had in my mind, and I don't know if any other members of the board share this, was we didn't see anything that showed what the coverage would have been at 90 feet. In other words, is there anything that you could show us that shows that it's a big improvement? Because you're asking for over a 50% increase in height. And so that's one of the things that Mr. Lawton had reached out and asked, and then I saw the little, I clicked on the little purple flags and kind of saw the responses, and the response seemed to be that you felt satisfied with what you presented. So could somebody maybe explain to the board why it's so critical to go to 150 feet from 90 feet? There are other factors. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Ellen Fryman, 1441 Main Street, Springfield, representing Verizon and Diamond. And Keith Valenti from C-Squared will go over those plots and show you the 90-foot coverage. I also want to just remind the board that it was a requirement in the RFP that we provide for co-location, so that we could have other co-locators, and I believe the town gets a share of that rent from co-locators. And at 90 feet, there would be no room for any co-location. So this, it's not only improvement of the coverage, but it also will allow for other co-locators, other carriers to go on the same tower, including the town.
My understanding of the technology is that if you put a second cell phone, you're going to be at the top because you guys put the tower up, so you get king
Well,
of
and the
mountain.
town can go on the top too, so we could be
Right.
a little bit below.
But then if you have a second
every
area
10
that
feet,
wants to be on
there has
there,
to
they
be a
have to
10
be down.
feet. Every 10 feet.
10
so
feet.
there has to be a 10 feet.
So if you added
10-foot
two more
separation.
carriers, that guy at the bottom of the pole, he could be as far as 30 feet down from the top.
Yeah,
of
but the
you might
lower
be
you
able
go,
to-
again, they're also not going to be attracted to the tower because they want to have at least make it worth their while to be there and have decent coverage, so.
Yeah, they're not gonna wanna lease space from you
They're
on
not
the
gonna
tower
go-
if you're
yeah,
sticking them at
yeah.
90 feet.
Right. So I should add, it's in the lease that was negotiated with the town too, that we provide for co-location, and I believe, again, a share of the rent, so.
Okay, and just because I don't have it in front of me, to refresh my memory, the balloon test, that was at 150 feet?
That was at 150.
Okay. All right.
Yep. So Keith can go over those with you.
Would setting up right here be okay?
Sure.
Yep.
Just to clarify, it's actually 145 is the antenna center line because of just spacing at the top and safety, so just clarify that.
Real quick question. You said the town would be at the top, the very top? What?
Typically, that's what they do. They put up whip antennas at the top. And I know that the town did express interest, and that would be, rent-free to, as a courtesy to provide that service.
So, good evening. My name is Keith Valenti with C Squared Systems. Business address is 65 Dartmouth Drive in Auburn, New Hampshire. So what I have with me for materials is I have the set of plots that were run through at the last meeting. Happy to go back through them again, refresh anyone. These are the plots that were in our RF report that was included in the application, which discusses Verizon's network in general and how the proposed site fits within it. Since then, on, I guess it was the morning of July 2nd, we received Isotrope's response and prepared some additional maps. I don't know if that was submitted to the board or just to Isotrope, but anyway, at any rate, in that set of materials provided from C Squared, we were focusing on the questions from Isotrope related to Chase Mills, as well as how the height at the proposed site might change the coverage. So what I have on the display here So this is the first map that was presented, which is the coverage with Chase Mills. So just as a reminder and a refresher, the site locations are shown by the sets of 3 wedges. Each wedge represents a sector. Most of the sites have 3 sectors of antennas to cover all in 360 degrees around them. So the site labeled Webster 3, that's an existing facility. It's a rooftop on top of the senior center, Town Hall in Webster. We have 395 running north-south along the right side of the map, and a site monopole, Webster South, and then down in Connecticut, Thompson North. And then on the left side of the map is a site labeled Dudley 3, which is off of Hall Road that Verizon is on. So those are the existing sites in the area. The proposed site on Carroll Drive is the blue icon in the center of the map, and then the Chase Mill location is the purple set of icons. And the coverage here represents coverage from those surrounding sites and a theoretical site on Chase Mills. The height guidance we used was that the building is roughly 50 feet with about a 20-foot kind of extension above that. We just assumed a 10-foot extension for the antennas above that, so that's where we get our 77-foot antenna center line. The antennas being plus or minus 3 feet from that. The site location itself it's about 1/3 of a mile north of our proposed site, and probably more importantly, it's about 2/3 of a mile from the existing site on the senior center. So the coverage it does provide is also going to be constrained within the valley that was discussed in that first hearing. But because it's further north, that's where the coverage is going to be more focused, and it won't, and as it's shown here in comparison to the report plots for the proposed site, you can see the main area where the coverage is lost is further to the south of the proposed site on Route 12 as you head towards Connecticut. So that was our analysis provided to Isotrope there. The next set of maps we did, with modeling generally we do, comparisons of heights in 20-foot increments. Anything less than that just kind of blurs the lines. So that's generally where we start. So what I have here are maps at 20 feet below the proposed, 40 feet below, and then 60 feet below. So that gets us to the 85-foot center line height, which would equate to a 90-foot pole, if you will. So visually, looking at these in comparison to the map on the floor there, you may not notice a whole lot, particularly between 125 feet and 145 feet. 125 feet in this area, it is above most of the surrounding clutter. It does offer valuable coverage, and that would be a pretty fair representation of what the third carrier on this, if a third carrier were to locate on this pole, what they would achieve for coverage. All else being equal, I mean, each carrier has their own networks, but generally the layouts are the same, and the coverages and the powers that are used are the same. So you can construe to a certain extent what a third carrier would get from this pole.
Mr. Clark?
If, through the chair, what has been shown to us in terms of the balloon study that was done in the simulation, in terms of the tower, that was with the Verizon installation on it only, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it was 150 feet, so it was, the simulation.
I mean, we're talking about things below that. I didn't see anything below that.
The photo sims just show one carrier.
One tower, okay, so there would be additional hardware. This is maybe a reach in terms of a question, but not that long ago, we had a tornado that went through Dudley and Webster. And I'm just wondering what happens in that situation with this tower? And I understand the tower itself, the pole itself, sounds pretty stable, but you get all this hardware that's hanging off of it. Is that all stable and willing to, or able to sustain something like that?
I think
I just know that there's required wind loads as part of the building permit and, under the building code, and we meet them. I haven't heard of any issues of any, towers collapsing or any,
Okay.
with high winds or tornadoes in this area. And we have experienced some in this western part of Massachusetts,
Sure.
central western.
I hope we never have another one, but, I don't know what the winds typically are of a
High
tornado, but they're certainly
standards.
beyond what would probably be considered the norm.
They're pretty high standards for what we have to do to attach the equipment.
So you're saying effectively that your standards are such that you've covered that eventuality?
They're legal requirements that we have to meet, and we do, so.
All right. Do you have a number in terms of how many miles per hour that covers? I know you have numbers for everything, so
I was gonna ask what happens if it gets hit by lightning.
that's a good one.
What happens if the water tower gets hit by a tornado?
Everybody gets wet.
I understand.
I don't know.
We're not going to not build a water tower up there.
No.
I mean,
But,
Yeah, but that's 150 feet.
that's you're talking about the water plant at Justin Hill. That's an existing structure. We're talking about something that would be additional in terms of any risk.
I don't know about a tornado, maybe a hurricane.
right, and that's probably what
Even
the
the
model
storms we got last
they're
night.
testing. It's hurricane.
Well, you've got a couple of vacant lots in Webster right now where buildings used to be.
Good evening.
Good.
How you doing? I'm Scott Von Ryan with Diamond Communications.
One moment, please. Excuse me. Could we, I'm sorry, I'm trying to hear, he's introducing himself. Could you repeat what you just said?
Absolutely. My name is Scott Von Ryan with Diamond Communications at 120 Mountain Avenue, Springfield, New Jersey. So I have with me the signed and sealed tower drawings for this project, and it shows it's designed for an ultimate wind speed of 126 miles per hour. There's obviously factors of safety built into that. I think it should be well within requirements if a wind event should occur. I think houses and homes and trees would probably be.
I'm sorry, your voice is trailing off a little bit.
I apologize. I would assume that houses and roofs and trees would have more of a concern than the steel tower that's built.
Well, I'm concerned that the things that are on the steel tower stay on the steel tower.
Yeah,
If I may, if something were to come off.
Mr. Clark,
Are you covered in terms of the insurance as far as the abutters are concerned?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think to his point, I think what he was saying was, before that tower comes down at 126 miles an hour, there are some huge trees in that area that are going to come down on those houses.
There
before
may
that.
well be, but we're talking about a piece of metal that
Yeah.
flying through the air at 100 and something miles an hour is
don't know,
potentially,
Just came back from Wareham and we saw some huge
we
trees
can argue the
with
forestry
trailers.
issues at another point. I would remind everyone who's spoken that there is a sign-in sheet, and we need your names and addresses on there. So we haven't concluded by any means, but before we get too much further along, thank you.
Absolutely, you're welcome.
All right, so, Mike, what do you think of the?
Just to jump in for a second, before you go on, Keith, does everybody kind of understand what you're looking at here in terms of the plots? I mean, what the colors represent and what's being shown, or should I explain that?
Well, I don't know if you guys want to hear it again. We heard it at the.
I will offer an anecdotal comment, if I may, Mr. Chair. I was at the library, which is on Schofield Ave, and some of you may be a little, familiar with that location now, since you're in the area working on this project. And I was talking to our clerk, our former clerk, who was located in this building, on my cell phone. And we couldn't make a connection that was a viable connection. And literally, if we'd opened the window at the library, I probably would have been able to yell up the hill and communicated with her successfully. So I confess, I witnessed any number of times the faulty service that we have as far as these things are concerned. They're almost misrepresented, really, because I can't get anybody from my backyard, which is an airport road, and on that occasion I couldn't get anyone from the library, which is, if a couple of trees fell down and we had a wind, you'd be able to see from this building. So I think we definitely need something. I don't know if it's 150 feet.
3 bars, that's fading in and out. And that's in this building, so
What are the towers that we currently have?
I do not know.
So the greener is further away, right? The lighter green is the better coverage?
So what this shows here is Verizon, as do most carriers, they operate their networks across, they're licensed to operate at multiple frequency bands. To the user, it's more or less transparent, but that's to manage both coverage and capacity. So what we're showing, and this is based on Verizon's 4G network, is their 700 megahertz coverage, which is shown in green, and that's at a threshold that Verizon deems reliable for their service. It's minus 95 dBm. So what's shown in yellow is a higher band that they use to deploy 4G service. It's AWS, or 2100 megahertz. Just the physics of it, it doesn't have the same range. It's attenuated quicker through trees and buildings and hills and so forth. So the yellow or AWS coverage is generally contained within the green 700 megahertz. So it's sort of a best and worst case in terms of what the frequencies can cover on their 4G network. Both are at that same threshold. It is, just to be clear, it's not just a matter of, your phone goes out of service once you hit the white area. It's just not as reliable to meet Verizon standards. The service within the colored areas varies as well. The closer to the site, stronger coverage you have, you can sustain higher throughputs and have better connectivity. And likewise, as you get further off into the white, the gaps deepen, and at some point you can't even make a call anymore. So it's not a hard cutoff between you can make a call and you can, or you can make a data connection and you can't. There's a number of factors, but first thing you need is coverage to support that connection, and that's what we're showing here.
And to your point, indoors versus outdoors is also a factor. In an area where there's relatively sufficient coverage in the outdoors, there may, from attenuation from the buildings, be insufficient coverage.
I get pretty lousy coverage indoors, outdoors, or anywhere, driving included.
Well, I'm in that hole too. I don't have any service
Yeah.
at home.
Verizon would like to fix that.
Yeah.
Well,
All right, do any of the board members have any more questions for him about the specific coverage patterns and the difference between 90 feet and 100? No. Okay, so I guess we've got that covered. So one of the other things that came up that we were talking about, this is probably an easier one. We talked about the paint or coating, and our regulations say that the thing's supposed to be painted, is it light gray?
Light gray or light blue?
Light blue or light gray. I think we kind of talked about if they painted it light gray, I don't know if it would look very different than what the tower would look like in its natural state.
Yeah, if it's galvanized.
If it's galvanized, right. So do we know the, I think I may have asked, but I apologize, I don't remember. What the, is it a galvanized tower? It's a galvanized steel tower. So one of the questions the board has to decide on is do we want to make them paint it? If they paint it, they have to paint it and any of the equipment they hang on it. And
If they paint it and it starts flaking off.
that's what my thought, I think that's what I talked about last
You're
time.
gonna
I was
have
like,
paint flying all over the place.
They mentioned that one of the towers had been up in 53 years, so in that 53-year span, you'd be repainting a number of times. Either that or you'd be looking at an awful,
Mike, what is your,
Unsightly.
what has been your experience with other applicants? Did they typically not paint towers?
Yeah, typically, these days, typically towers are left in the bare galvanized, or monopoles are left in the bare galvanized finish.
So if I'm reading the board correctly, I think we're kind of in agreement about not making them paint it. They haven't asked for a waiver for that requirement, so maybe you just make a verbal, okay, and then that way we can take care of that. And then the last item that popped up for me was the balloon test. The data that we asked for, we asked for the photographs, the original photographs of the balloon test, and I believe it was, I think it was Mr. Vineski explained to us last time how the process usually is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but typically you go out to several different locations and you take a photograph of the balloon flying. Then you take those photographs and you
Plug your tower.
Photoshop them or doctor them to plug in a tower, to simulate a tower. And that should be in the same location as where the balloon was flying. So that's how I understood it. And based on our, I don't know if you recall, gentlemen, but we had a previous cellular applicant come in up near Shepherd Hill. That didn't end up going anywhere, but that's exactly how they did their test. They had photographs of the balloon, and then they showed us, like, next slide, it was photograph where the balloon was, now you get a stick, which is the monopole. So we looked at your report. I sent it to all the members of the board. I don't know how many of you guys had a chance to look at it ahead of time. But it appears to me that it's two completely different sets of photographs. So that's the only concern I have. In other words, it looks like the photographs were taken on different days. In other words, it doesn't look like you used the actual balloon photographs to make your monopole simulated photographs.
I think there were as-is photos, and then right after that, the balloon picture, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I
But-
looked at it, though, a couple days.
Mike, what was your,
I would agree. When I looked at the photos, it was the two pictures, the background of the two pictures, it's different cloud cover, more vegetation, and from a slightly different location in each one of the scenarios.
so that's the only issue I have with your balloon test report with the other photos in there, with the photos being clearly not the same photos, taken from slightly different angles. I just don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud here. I don't know what the other board members feel if it's not that big of an issue. We did have one couple that was here last. Well, we had a couple that was here, and I remember when I brought them up the photos, the simulated photos with the monopole. They pointed out that one of the photos, that the house in the foreground, they said that's our house. So to them, I'm sure it was important to see where that was. So.
And I think the purpose of the balloon is twofold. It's to. I think the purpose of the balloon is twofold. It's to have people in the community able to see the balloon and how high it is, in its natural state, and then the other is to act as a measurement tool for a simulation. So, looking at these photo sims, it appears that the pictures are in a very similar, if not identical scale, and really that's the issue. And the photos are from the same perspectives, the same scale, and basically, you know, the balloon doesn't fly as you would like it to fly, you know, perfectly straight up. So he asked to make some estimations based on where the balloon is to create the simulations. And I think from looking at these, they're, you know, very accurate.
So are you looking at comparisons of the two photos right now?
Yes, absolutely.
Could you
Yes.
could you bring those up here to the board, please?
Sure. Start from the back, really.
I did send you this exact report, too.
We did get the
Yeah.
email and,
That's another copy.
okay, thanks.
If anyone wants to, doesn't have it, wants to see it. Starting from the back, going forward. See the balloon there. And the tower there.
So,
You're more than welcome to keep those copies.
all right, so there's the simulated tower.
Clouds obviously moving.
There's the balloon.
You say about that?
I mean, doesn't that look lower? I don't know if it's just because the vantage point they chose. Yeah, I mean, look at this, this is looking down into this yard.
Yeah.
So this is from
You're
looking
definitely up,
up.
because that's a 6-foot fence.
Yeah, right, so whoever took this photo was way up. Whoever took this photo was at ground level.
Yeah. You see that from here.
See the other thing, it's where the
Yeah,
They're not pretty much.
Yeah. Let's see if, so there's the balloon. Yeah, that one actually looks, that one looks
far
good.
away, but
Yeah.
How way in the distance on that. Guys, you barely see them. I'm assuming that's it, right?
Thank you, Seth.
Okay. That's pretty good too. I don't know if that's the house. Yeah, that might have been.
Pretty common in some parts of the country, unfortunately.
That's their house.
That's their
I remember this angle, yeah. So that's their house. That's the tower,
Very good.
yeah. No, it looks pretty good.
what's your tower scaled at in these photos?
The scale
Yeah. Because I know these two houses are really close, and this thing looks like a little pencil compared to
Which one you looking at, Tom?
this one on New Boston Road.
Oh, yeah, that
I
one.
mean, we use
That-
this
that would be, like,
gentleman
right
to do our
beyond, I
photo
think.
sims, you know, all across the country, and, you know, he's
I would
top
think
notch.
that was like, would look way bigger. Because that's right on New Boston Road, I drive by there every day.
Let me ask Mr. Lawton, are these photographs that we're looking at typical of what is seen when we're looking at a proposal such as this?
Typically, I'd expect to see the same picture,
Okay,
the same exact.
same exact
yeah,
time?
Yeah, the same exact picture, and then, you know, adjust the, take the picture, remove the balloon, and
Right.
superimpose the tower itself on it.
And I think that's what I was
I've
expecting
normally
to see,
seen.
which is the only reason I brought it up. But looking at these photos, I know that they were taken at a different time of day, clearly, and from different angles, clearly,
Yeah.
right? But I would say that they still are an accurate representation. I mean, this is probably the one that's the furthest off, and that's because he got way up and for this photo. So he's looking down like this, and he's at ground level there. So that's the one that, height-wise, it looks like quite a mismatch. The other ones actually look pretty good. Did a good job of lining himself up when he took the other shot. So, I don't know, it's, what's the other one?
We did Ansel Lyons to do the photos.
That's the one where you can really see. You can really see it's two different photos, taken at two different times.
Investigation.
Definitely different angles. Different angles, but I'd say same spot. The balloon's in the same spot, it's just different
Right,
vantage point.
right. And it just looks like the height's different on that one,
Yeah,
but again,
yeah.
because of the vantage point there.
That's the problem with the balloon test.
So I'm satisfied with the report as it stands.
Yours, are we leaving there for the moment?
But I'm only one board member, so.
I got one question on.
Yeah, sure.
On the FAA is not requiring a light at 150 feet?
Correct.
What's their light, how tall does it have to be?
It's fairly commonplace that, you know, if you don't go over 200 feet and you're not near an airport, even like a small field, lighting is not required.
Gotcha.
But an applicant will typically do a TOER, which is a pre-filing analysis. And then eventually they'll file formal filing, and have it'll be circulated. And it'll come out with similar results.
Gotcha.
How often do these get struck by lightning? Because we had a crazy storm last night.
Everything is grounded.
Everything's grounded, not gonna catch on fire, and the fire department's gonna be trying to figure out how to put it out.
Does Spectrum run off of Verizon, or is that their own, they would have to get their own thing? Whoever the Verizon person is.
Spectrum, I'm actually a Spectrum subscriber.
Yeah, me too.
Spectrum uses Verizon as an MVNO. So if you're a Spectrum wireless customer or a Spectrum mobile customer, you're on your home Wi-Fi when you're at home, but when you go out and around, you're on Verizon's commercial network.
Oh, okay, makes sense. All right, before I open it up to the audience, any other questions from the board members?
Yeah, we have a waiver list or anything on this?
We have one waiver requested, which is for the height from 90 feet to 150 feet.
Actually, I'm sorry, we did have another request, was regarding the balloon float. If you recall, that the requirement in the bylaw was 72 straight hours.
Oh,
And we
that's
had
right.
gotten
I remember
consent to
that.
break
Yeah.
that up. And then the third would be for the paint, to ask that we waive the paint requirement.
Okay,
So there would be
so-
3 waivers.
What is it? Paint, the
Say
height.
it has to be painted, or is it just that, say it's
Doesn't
gray?
Well, it's going to be galvanized steel. All the alternative would have been.
Yeah, that's great. There wouldn't be a waiver requested for it.
Okay. It's-
No, because the regulation says it's supposed to be coated,
Right.
painted.
No, the
It's not-
bylaw
yeah,
says it has to be
yeah.
painted.
Bylaw says painted
Yeah.
either light gray or light blue.
But I mean, honestly, who knows how old our bylaw is? It
Yeah.
could be a very,
Can't be too old.
right.
20 years?
But I think the mood of the board was that
Makes sense, actually.
they don't need it,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
So,
Okay, so any other questions from the board? Okay, at this time, do we have anybody in the audience that would like to speak regarding this cell phone tower project? Any residents here that want to talk about it, or? All right, so, seeing no further people that want to talk about this, I guess at this point, we can do a couple of things. If we want, we could put it to a vote right now. Right. Thank you. All right, so seeing no other comments, I'm going to close the public hearing regarding the cell tower for, where the heck is it? 2 Carroll Drive. Thank you very much. And at this time, the chair will entertain any motions.
We
I
voting
guess
on the
we should do the
or-
waivers first.
Yeah, we'll do waivers first.
Okay, any particular order? We need a waiver for the height. Are we willing to waive the 90-foot restriction and allow 150 foot?
Just a point of clarification, our bylaw allows us to go, it does provide for up to 180 feet, but we are not to exceed that. So effectively, we're between 90, and then we have the special permit, which can cover something in addition to the 90, or above the 90, but there's a hard stop, if you will, in the bylaw at 180. not to exceed 180. This being at 150, so it really is within that range. I
You
just
wanna go
adding
30 more
that
feet?
Oh, we're gonna sell a few more feet?
Sold.
Just
If we-
so that
if
we
we-
know that there are some parameters beyond the.
If we waive the
special
90-foot restriction,
Yes.
then they don't have to go before the ZBA and
Right.
request.
And
So,
then, I would move, Mr. Chairman, that we waive the 90-foot restriction.
I will second that.
okay, so we have a motion and a second to allow the tower to be 150 feet. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Next up, we've got the waiver they asked for regarding us accepting the balloon flight analysis as presented with the different timeframes than what was required in the regulations. I think we've already beat that to death. We all pretty much fine with the balloon. So the chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the balloon at what, 48 hours, so 72?
Was that what it was?
What,
It was several different, that maybe is the explanation. It was flown over several different days to total the 72 hours.
Okay.
So that may be why it's different. I don't know.
So
But he might have gone out and
why
taken
don't- why don't we
photos on
just say
different
the-
days.
Why don't you make the motion just to accept the balloon
make a motion to accept the balloon as
report as
presented.
presented? Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. And finally, to paint or not to paint? That is the question.
Mr. Chairman, my motion would be to use the galvanized coating on the pole, as it would be provided.
Natural.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion
Second.
and we have a second. All those in favor of keeping the pole as a natural galvanized pole?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. All right, so now the big one. Chair is looking, will entertain a motion for approval of the special permit for the personal wireless facility at 2 Carroll Drive by Diamond Communications LLC, Selco partnership with DBA Verizon Wireless.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. I think you're good.
One stipulation, if anybody hasn't signed in, would you please do so at this point? Thank you.
I think we have everything.
All right.
And you folks will be able to, you could just withdraw your ZBA application, right?
Yes.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thought they already
Appreciate
went to
everyone's
ZBA.
help with
Huh?
I thought they went to the ZBA.
No,
They went to the ZBA for the setbacks. But we decided, the ZBA decided to not make a decision on that because it would be kind of like we were cutting the kneecaps off.
We wanted to preserve our right to go before them if we needed to.
Go back.
We will withdraw that.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair, I would like to thank Mr. Lawton for his report.
Oh, yeah,
and the
absolutely.
information provided.
Thank you, Mr. Lott.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so now we've got standard business. Discussion status report on finishing construction of and acceptance of uncompleted and unaccepted subdivision streets, including Pierpont Estates. We have no news there. Country View Estates, Eisenhower Drive, nothing right now there. Lyons Estates, I know we have a gentleman in the audience, he's a resident of Lyons Estates. I know he's not on the agenda to speak, but since we are covering updates on Lyons Estates under standard business, I would ask the board whether or not they would want to hear from him. And of course, we just would not take any votes on anything because it's not on the agenda. But just like to be interested to hear why he's here tonight. So if you could just come up, introduce yourself, and then, like Mr. Clark said, if you could just sign in. Where'd the sign-in sheet go?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nate McNamara, 19 Truman Drive. I'm actually joined by two other individuals that live in the cul-de-sac as well. Last meeting that you guys had, I believe there was a representative from Galaxy here going over the said plans for the development.
Yes.
I'm here to voice, and I'll let the other individuals speak on behalf of them, but voicing some of the other concerns from the neighbors is that the lack of communication to the group of us on what's going to be happening to the estate. I can tell you that our home building process with Mr. Ravane has been nothing but awful, and now we're going through the same path with Galaxy and what's going to be happening with the road, with the said sidewalks. We haven't been given any plans on what the final development's supposed to be look like, besides hearsay from individuals, workers that come down. Mr. Ravane's son actually lives off the cul-de-sac up in the woods. He owns that land. He's been giving us some ideas of what's supposed to be happening, but again, no communication to the residents. And I believe in the last meeting, one of the board members mentioned about paving and what that impact that's going to do to the neighborhood was, and it didn't seem like there was any clear answer other than, yeah, the road's going to be shut down. Well, that's kind of difficult when you have 20 homeowners and over 20 kids in the area, especially if this is happening during school time. And how are they going to get to school? Where are we supposed to park our cars? Most of us, we don't work from home. We work outside jobs, so we need the access. And just, again, more communication. What is the plan? What's the final layout supposed to be? When are they going to do it? Because a few months ago, we all turned down our cul-de-sac and we saw some granite side stones going in, and we all just like, oh, it looks like they're going to start the road. And then they were gone for a few weeks. And then they came back, and then they put in some, I think, entryways for wheelchair access. I believe that's a code. And we thought it was going to be happening again, and then they disappeared. And then a few weeks ago, we all came home to stakes in our yard that had some writing on it that we have no idea what that means. We're not, we don't work for that, but it's all staked across the yard. So we all started panicking because we're trying to figure out what the plan for the sidewalk is. Is it going on one side of the road? Is it going on both sides of the road? We were told it wasn't supposed to be on both sides, but again, this was years ago when we first bought the property, and we all paid a pretty hefty premium for that land, as you guys know. So I just want to be here to voice the concerns that we have. I think we're definitely due for some type of communication from whoever is running the project. I believe it's Galaxy, and when that time frame is, so that we can prepare and make sure that our kids and family are taken care of. So,
Okay, so one of your neighbors was here at that meeting, and he specifically was asking about the sidewalks and the stakes. And the stakes actually have to do with staking out the right-of-way of the road.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got the width of the paved road and you've got the sidewalks, but the actual area that occupies that becomes eventually, the hope would be, is going to be accepted as a public way, is actually wider than that.
Mm-hmm.
What you don't necessarily see that, because once your lawn's put in and everything, your lawn tends to go right up to the sidewalk.
Correct.
Well, when you're mowing the grass right up to the sidewalk, you in fact are actually going to, when your town is accepted as a road, a public way, you're actually mowing town property at that
Right.
point. But that's just the way it is. So my understanding from the explanation we had from the gentleman from Galaxy was that that's exactly what that staking is. So you're seeing a stake that looks like it's way in your yard, and the reality is it's because that's the limit of the right-of-way.
Which is, it's fine, I understand that, but none of us have received any type of plans of what that layout was supposed to be.
So the definitive plan that was approved by the board, it's on file. It actually was on the town website. Do you, excuse me, do you know when they just updated the town website, they changed it.
Okay.
And I noticed, like, the cell phone thing we just dealt with, I couldn't find it at all anywhere. It seems like it
Yeah, a lot of stuff is hard.
There's a lot of
it
things.
didn't make it over.
A lot of the meeting agendas and minutes are from April. I mean,
There's a lot of stuff that.
It's a lot of
It
catching up.
actually was, that plan was actually able to be viewed on the
Website.
town website, so I'm sorry you haven't been able to see it, but the process would be that they're going to continue to build it, and they have to build that development to the specifications of what's approved on the definitive plan. If they want to change something on a definitive plan, then they have to come in and do either a minor or a major change, and that has to be approved by the board. And then in the end, before the town, before the planning board would certify that the development is done and that it can go to town meeting to be voted on for acceptance as a town road, The town's engineer, our peer review engineer, he goes out there and he's gonna take that plan and he's gonna look at what they did. And he needs them to do exactly what that, he's gonna show us if they didn't do what they're supposed to do.
Okay.
I apologize, because off the top of my head, going from memory, I can't recall whether or not it was supposed to be sidewalks on both sides of the road or not.
Sidewalks on one side.
Sidewalks on one side. So Mr. Horn recalls that you're only going to have sidewalks on one side of the road. Regarding your experience so far, I feel a lot more positive about the addition of the people who came in from Galaxy, who gave their presentation. It seems to me like they are being very responsive. I just received an email not that long ago from Mr. Karapanis explaining the situation with the mailboxes and how that was resolved, and that particular resident who brought that to their attention, she also responded she was satisfied with the outcome of that. I guess my point, I'm just trying to use that as an example of, I think they're trying to now right the cart, so to speak, and be proactive about pushing this forward and getting this completed. They have a large bond that they're paying on, and they can't get that released until this is finished.
Right.
So there's a good financial reason why. I have no idea why things were taking as long as they did, but I know that Galaxy now is really interested in pushing this forward and finishing it. To your point about improving communications, do you guys have a neighborhood organization of any type? Do you have a homeowners association or anything like that formed? Okay. You obviously are here as a de facto spokesperson. Would you say that you would be in a position that, because obviously it would be difficult for them to get a hold of every single person in there, but if there was a key person that they could get a hold of who was able to reach out, you could even form a Facebook page for your neighborhood and just have everybody in your neighborhood on the Facebook page, and you could get a bulletin out that way or something like that. But I mean, I'd be happy to pass on your contact information and your email if you want.
That's fine.
To the people at Galaxy. Our point man at Galaxy, the gentleman who came, I forgot his name already, but.
Carapanis.
No, it was from Galaxy. Mr. Karapanis was one of the principals, but it was his, O'Brien, was that it? I honestly don't remember. I have it, so I can get it to him. I have his email. I can send him your information. I'm gonna make sure he knows that you and your neighbors, some of them, really just want better communication. I can completely understand. You don't want, it's a big cul-de-sac, it's a big dead end. You don't want to find out that all of a sudden the paving company shows up
Exactly.
and the road's going to be closed and you had no warning.
Yep.
So I can completely understand that. So let me do this. Let me,
Send Galaxy a letter, telling them to send them letters.
Yes, we'll get the clerk working on
Hey.
that.
that's the problem, David. I understand. I
know.
understand what you're saying. Who's going to do that?
So one of the problems we have currently is we do not have a town
Talking
planner.
about, you want me to
The
do it?
gentleman
I'll do it
retired
for
about a
you.
year ago. Up until very recently, we had a clerk. She's no longer available to us either. So in terms of some of the functions, such as the letter that was just mentioned, we haven't any clear path in terms of how to handle those, or who's on first, if you will, to the Abbott
Yeah.
Costello story. And communication, that's something we struggle with a number of the folks that are working as regards to developments, and some of the folks such as yourselves in other locations. There's not a whole lot we can do to force communication. We can request, and we can ask, and we can beg, and we can plead, and we can go on and on and on with that. But it really, hopefully, is something that can come together organically between the two.
Yeah, I think we're just looking for maybe like a little bit more weight from the planning board or the town itself to just really try to push this along.
To Mr. Durgan's point, I think the problem would be you've got a situation where you've got a developer and then you've got a builder. The builder probably has spoken to many of you and dealt with many of you because he built your house. The developer was kind of in the shadows during this whole thing, right? Okay? Now we get a situation where the developer's like, okay, let's go. Let's get this wrapped up. So they come out of the shadows. Now they're pushing the ball forward. Quite frankly, they probably haven't met hardly any of you. So there's your communication problem. So I will get your information. I'll pass it on to them. I will talk about what happened tonight. I can make the recommendation that they can try and contact every single person on the street.
Well, just for paving. when they're
Put
gonna
a sign up.
Yeah, okay.
Put a sign up, we'll be paving this day.
Well, like you said, if we come home from work next Tuesday and my road is closed,
Yeah, it sucks.
Right, right. So I will take care of this tomorrow. So I just need you to come grab my,
When you say they flagged your properties, did they do both sides of the road?
Yeah, they did both.
They did both sides?
yeah, because even if the sidewalks aren't on both sides, you still gotta mark the right of way.
I signed that sheet. You want me to do this too?
Yeah,
That's-
'cause,
that's- Mr. Wetruba is taking this on as a task, and thank him.
Yeah, because I see
sincerely
that
for it.
telephone pole's in the middle of the road now, on the corner.
Did you measure how far from the road it goes to the poles?
it's like 7 feet.
Oh, 17.
Our typical layout for a road, depending on the width of the road. is-
No, the sidewalk,
The
like
sidewalk.
what they
The
seem to
typical-
stake
The
out.
typical layout is 5-foot grass strip. From the edge of the road, it's typically 5-foot grass strip and a 5-foot sidewalk. And then the.
It's usually
the outer
10-foot
bounds of the
easement around it.
Right-of-way taking goes beyond that. So there could be, if you have a 24-foot wide road and a 50-foot taking, you're gonna have 10 and 10. If you had sidewalks on both sides, you would have 10 and 10 feet. And then that would be 34 feet, and then the remainder would be split on each side for the rest of the taking. So there would be some more grass strip on each side of the sidewalk, but that's typically how it works. So, our standard is a 5-foot grass strip and a 5-foot taking.
Okay.
And they can ask for waivers to reduce that. If they want to do a 4-foot grass strip and a 4-foot sidewalk, they can ask for waivers, but from what I remember, I don't remember them asking for any waivers on the grass strips or the sidewalks. I do know they asked for a waiver on sidewalks on only one side. So I believe the sidewalk's gonna start at some portion on the cul-de-sac, go all the way around and come up when you're driving down the cul-de-sac, it'd be on the left side of the road.
It's on my side.
Yeah.
Mr. McNamara, I need you, your chicken scratch is worse than mine. I can't, I see the @yahoo.com. I need you to rewrite that a little bit.
Just Nate
better.
Mac. That's it.
What is it? Name Mac?
Nate.
Oh, Nate Mac, Nate.
Yep.
MAC 100?
Yep.
Okay. And put the 100 after it. And now we'll make sure you get spammed. Okay, is there anybody else here who wanted to talk about Lions?
Just the one final comment. You mentioned the
Sure.
inspector, I believe.
The town engineer.
Yeah, so the side of the road that's not gonna have the sidewalk over the last year or two has been severely eroded. Like last night, someone mentioned a storm. I believe there's like a 3 or 4 foot ditch from the paved road, and it's eroded an individual's grass frontage, if you would. And we have large rocks like this in the middle of the roadway right now presently. So I'm hoping that is gonna be fixed too, and
That
not
hasn't
just.
been loomed and seeded though yet, right?
No, I'm just
Right.
saying, like,
Yeah,
it's just.
so that would be, that would have to be.
Yeah, I'm just more stressing the point, the longer that they wait, the more that's gonna get eroded. It's more of a safety concern. Like I mentioned, we have 20-plus children in that cul-de-sac, so it's the last thing we want is someone to get really hurt there, so.
Let's send Graves out there to do inspection.
The big reason that you're having all this problem with that runoff and everything on that subdivision in the roadway is that fact that when you put the binder course down, which is the part of the road that you're driving on right now, the sub base and the binder course, there was no berms put in.
Right.
So if they would have put the berms in, it would have held everything back, they wouldn't have had any problems. But he didn't put the berms in, and this has been a big problem since day one, before
Yeah.
the first house was built,
Okay,
so.
thank you, appreciate it.
All right.
Can I address the board?
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah.
My name is Jim Guitar. I live at 14 Truman Drive. One of the questions I had was, at the bottom of the cul-de-sac, Mike Ravane has the entrance to his property off the bottom of the cul-de-sac.
Yep.
Are we zoned strictly a residential neighborhood, or is he gonna get some kind of a waiver to run a business out of there? Because the reason I'm asking is because they're bringing in triaxes with big pieces of equipment. The new road goes in, it's gonna get destroyed, you know, running that kind of equipment through it. In addition to that, we have wells. Do we have to worry about diesel leaks, hydraulic fluids?
I know that's a huge parcel that
But he's landlocked.
up in the back.
He's landlocked.
No, I understand that, but the point I'm getting to is, I'm not even sure, but it may cross because that backs up against the back of West Main Street, so I'm not actually sure, but
It could be in a different zone.
it could be. Part of that could be in a different zone. It's large enough.
No.
So he would be able to bring all of his equipment out while the little kids are playing? in
So the second
cul-de-sac.
thing I was gonna say was, what you're talking about is you're talking about code enforcement. So that would actually be the building inspector, Nelson Burlingame. He's gonna be thrilled that I gave you his name. But he would be the gentleman that if you feel that somebody is operating a business in an area that's not zoned for it and they're not permitted for it, he's the person who you would bring that to his attention, because he's the code enforcement officer for the zoning board.
Okay.
Because that's a zoning issue.
Okay.
So,
Anybody have a
But-
zoning rules of mixed here with the zoning map in it?
I don't think there's one on the back of this book.
No. For what? This?
And we got the subdivision regs are usually in.
I walked my dog up on that hill and I seen him looming his yard a couple weeks ago.
Just adds insult to injury, what we've been through, if he's gonna run triaxes and tractor trailers up and down the street all day long and destroy the road that we don't have yet.
See it? It's so small.
It's all res 30.
Okay.
All res there?
So the question would be, like, if he's storing equipment up there, that would be considered a contractor yard? And if a contractor yard is what you need to know is it a permitted use in res 30? My guess would be no.
I have no dispute with him storing whatever he wants up there. My question is he gonna be running heavy equipment down the cul-de-sac, up Truman Drive, day in and day out, while the kids are out there playing, going to the bus stop? And again, he's running commercial vehicles, CDLs, are they supposed to, their weight limit, are they even allowed to drive on those streets? 'Cause
Well, to
there's
your
weight
point, he's
restrictions.
only got one way in and one way out.
I understand
So,
that.
I mean, if he's storing it up there, chances are eventually it's gonna be driven in and out.
Okay,
So,
okay,
again,
well-
I would, like Mr. Horn said, find out whether or not he has the right to do it. There are certain areas where, even in a residential zone, you can do certain business
nice.
operations.
Thank you.
It's conceivably made.
Do you want to, do you want me to pass your contact information on to the people at Galaxy, or?
No.
Okay. All right.
The other folks that are here, do they want to make a comment in regards to any of the issues up there?
Maybe not up there.
Are you here for Lions Estates? No. Okay.
Hill Estates?
All right. Let me ask you just right now, what are you here for?
A letter I received from you regarding Polo Lane and Wet Lane, Len?
Okay, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
All right. Next, all right, nothing new, nothing else new there. Lions Estates, Sophie's Way. Inspections and actions associated with site plans. Legacy Landing Country Club Acres, nothing new there. SEP Solar, Oxford Ave, nothing new. Stevens Mill. Stevens Mill, I'll just make the comment, Conservation is getting some stuff from the developer on Stevens Mill. Sure they are.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
They're getting some what again, please?
we always talk about nothing's going on, they're not doing anything. There are applications. Aura told me that there are applications, they're bringing in some
yeah.
stuff regarding.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're going before conservation soon?
Yes, that's my understanding. So they're moving the ball forward, closer to the goal line. Inches, it's a game of inches.
Definitely is that.
Solar project at the landfill, I've got nothing. Dudley Housing Authority, nothing.
That should be, I thought we were over the finish line and then some on that one.
Just pave the
On which one?
entrance to that.
Dudley Housing Authority, it was just
Did they?
Yeah.
they're doing something over there.
planting grass or
They
something.
paved the
to that
entrance,
effect.
so I would think that they're pretty much done.
Yeah.
They were just waiting for grass, I thought.
It was, yeah, it was the looming and the seeding, and it was like, oh, that was,
And what about the solar field? Is that signed off?
Project at the landfill.
Because I think they're up and running.
Yeah, who would get that information now that there's no?
that's a good
work?
question.
Because I think the electrical permit was closed. I have to look in OpenGov.
Oh, well, wait here, next is planner's plate, why don't we have, oh, wait. Nobody's sitting there. There's a lot of things that are gonna fall, I'll just say it, there's a lot of things that are gonna fall through the cracks.
Sure. I mean, like, who's gonna open the mail? Who's gonna answer the phone?
Right.
That's one very basic issue. The beautiful town website that we have doesn't give you much of anything.
So, planner's plate, obviously, we've got nothing. So, now we come to, actually, before we get on to, totally forgot about,
The ordinance.
Mr. Horn rejoined us.
He did.
So we get to go back to new business, to planning board reorganization, one of our favorite times of year. So, I guess we start with the planning board chair. At this time, does anybody have any nominations for planning board chair that they'd like to make?
Mr. Chairman, I would very happily nominate you as planning board chairman.
A million-dollar question that everybody's going to ask is, like, would I accept it?
Well, let me explain a couple of reasons for why I'm making that nomination.
Okay.
One is, obviously, as you've noted and has been brought up in this meeting, we are short in regards to administrative staff. We have, in reality, none. You have been working closely with Aura in regards to a number of these issues, and you represent that one line of continuity that we do have, as much as there isn't any continuity here. You've also had some interaction with the front office and their efforts to try and procure planning help, and you very successfully were able to fill the gap for a few months with our friend Eve. So I think that speaks well to your ability to be flexible and to make arrangements where others might not have been able to come up with solutions.
I appreciate that.
That's your
sentiment.
campaign speech, I just wrote it for you.
I appreciate the sentiment. So, my first concern would be, we have two members here that have never served as chair. I want to make sure that, do either of you have, well, Mr. Clark has served as vice chair.
I think I did sit in his chair one year.
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah.
So
Library.
It's something not to be forgotten, let me tell you.
So, do either of you gentlemen want to grab the brass ring? Well,
I don't know. I'll nominate Dave just because you have an active sub-development.
All right,
That's,
well,
that's
we
the only
have-
the only
we
thing
do
that would
have
be
a
different.
motion.
You know what I mean?
Was there a second to the motion or to the?
actually, yeah, so Mr. Clark actually technically, he made a motion, and I was just deciding, did I want to accept?
Right.
But
Oh.
typically you can nominate multiple people, and then you just ask them if they wanna do it or not.
Okay.
Okay.
And see what their response is. And if they don't wanna do it, you can't force them.
All right, so,
So we got two nominations for chairman.
Well, does Dave even want it?
Do you wanna?
Or does Mr. Steve even want it?
I don't want chair.
Okay, he doesn't want it.
Not with, no,
You
no
don't want it.
planner, no.
So I
I
will
have-
accept it if somebody seconds it.
I'll
All right, I'll
I'll
second
second
it, yeah.
Okay. Well,
all right, Mr. Chairman, I would say, ask that we move the question.
Yep,
Any
Okay.
discussion?
all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
401. Thank you, Mr. Wetruba. And I think I heard from Mr. Durgan the possibility, the open possibility that he might serve as vice chair.
Sure.
All right, I would nominate Mr. Durgan as our vice chair.
I'll second that.
discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
No.
Congratulations.
Or do I have to abstain?
No, you can vote for yourself. I just,
Oh, no, then.
He's really no. What's the next one? The
clerk of the board. Now, traditionally, we've always nominated a clerk of the board. The person becomes the clerk of the board, and quite frankly, they've never had to do anything. We've always had somebody that did all of the normal operations of the clerk. This is new territory we're treading into here, so.
Because there's no clerk.
Because there's no, right. So the main thing that I think is important is that we have somebody that can take the minutes. So if somebody feels like they are good at
Take the
record
time.
keeping, actually, David wanted to do that. We just.
Late, man.
So,
I think the English teacher should do it.
do we have a nomination, or better yet, a volunteer, quite frankly?
I'll nominate Mr. Clark.
A volunteer
Right
clerk.
now, as a member of this board, I'm also on the Master Plan Steering Committee. I've got.
That's going nowhere.
Well, it may go somewhere at some point.
In a study group.
Also on the Library Board of Trustees and member now of the Bay Path School Committee. I don't see a whole lot of time left to go through, and I don't devalue the function, because it certainly is a critical one. I would think that, I would hope that we could approach the front office and see if we can't find someone on staff someplace.
I kind of
who
figured that
could
discussion was
supplement
coming
that.
up next, which is going to be.
And
yeah.
I point to the fact that we have an individual in the building who has volunteered and is doing, as you may well know, the library minutes. And it's not a member of the board, but it is a person who's volunteered to do that. And we're thankful for that, and I would hope that we'd be able to find someone who's willing to do that for us. You know, some of our meetings do run.
Do we have to nominate a clerk?
No,
don't have to.
no. But I would hope that
clerk doesn't
somehow
have to
something
take the
could be
minutes,
arranged.
Huh?
The clerk doesn't have to take the minutes like we're pushing on them.
I think at minimum, you would need to have the motions.
It's not
Motions
even,
and the
it's
votes.
not in our regulations anywhere, what any of these duties are, quite
Right.
frankly.
Yeah, I know.
But
We
if you
don't have
look
the
at like
bylaws.
Robert's Rules of Order, if you look at traditional jobs done by clerk on a board, whether it's a board on a homeowners association or a club or anything like that, typically the clerk, one of the jobs is handling the minutes. That's probably the most important job. There's also typically they'll
So,
keep the meeting moving.
Yeah.
Robert's Rules of Order type of.
Well, we've been spoiled. We've been very fortunate in that
We
we had
have.
Laura, and she was very much on top of things.
And a planner or a planner.
And, well, a planner too.
Who's gonna do our agenda every week, every month?
That's another
Well, that's
issue.
just it. We can
Somebody's
say, okay,
gonna-
the clerk, please take the minutes, but then what do you do with them? Now you're gonna have to, what are you gonna do? You're gonna type them
No
up,
idea.
and you're gonna email them to everybody on the board, and
Well, and there's the other issue in terms of somehow somebody has to deal with the correspondence, because some of that's going to come in. We know we're going to have bills that'll have to be paid
well,
on
yeah,
occasion.
we gotta talk to the front office, obviously. They've
Yeah.
gotta,
Yeah, somebody's gotta pick up the phone calls
It's-
and put the schedule together.
And unfortunate thing is they've got to be here at least some amount of time in order to be able to do that. And that presents a problem for some of us. I suspect it presents a problem for all of us, because we can't, I don't know that any of us are in a position to commit to any regular schedule, and that's what people are going to be expecting. So they're going to figure that somebody's going to be here on Tuesdays and
Yeah.
Wednesdays or whatever.
They're gonna wanna
from-
drop off, they're gonna wanna.
we went around the Mulberry Bush how many times with people dropping off documentation with the town clerk, and
Yeah.
when does the clock start on those things? Now we're in a situation where, yeah, she can pick up anything she wants, but when are we gonna see it? You know, it's just,
to David's point, we can't make the clerk, do the minutes. And it's like, because it's not really fair that they have that additional thing to do. But then again, I'm looking at, tomorrow, I'm writing a letter to Galaxy
Right.
Development. So,
and you need letterhead. I mean, do you have planning board letterhead or town letterhead? in order to
I'm
work
gonna
on them?
email them from my
Okay.
town email account, and that's gonna have to be the official
That's
word.
sufficient, okay. But-
Until someone comes up with something better.
Well, I think we need a discussion with someone on the other side of the wall, and honestly, I think the solution has to come from the other side of the wall.
Yeah, I agree. That has to come from
Personnel
town
director.
administrator. Hey, you
He
gonna, somebody,
is HR.
So let's,
yeah, exactly. Somebody calls and
why don't we
wants to-
just table the clerk for now?
I would agree.
Okay, so we'll table the clerk,
Do we
and that completes our reorganization of the board.
Vote for Guy Horn then.
You want me to be clerk?
We'll table it.
Yeah, I have 2 kids by myself, so.
We'll ask him, we'll find out if we need a clerk, how about that? If we'll talk to the administration and
All right,
find
so
out if we even need
need
it.
to, some number of us, or one of us, or 2 of us, or whatever, to approach
Yeah.
town
I'm
administration.
gonna go talk to him on Friday, no matter what. I got a lot to talk to him about.
Better get there early, it's a half day on Fridays.
I'll be there at 8 o'clock in the morning anyway.
Well, try to
What, you
get
got
us on
assessors?
the,
Yeah.
try to get us on the front end of the conversation before it becomes too confrontational.
What?
It's too late for that, Richard.
Not that it could or would, I'm sure.
Well, why don't we have Steve email him legally and see what he says?
Yeah, we could do that, it'd be safer.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
All right, so
Appointment of alternates?
we talked about the alternate, we actually voted and approved Dan
Yeah.
Anderson,
Yeah.
so
I'm good.
that's a done deal.
Oh, something else, oh yeah,
The
that.
minutes were already done?
Yeah,
Are we
we-
tabling this complaint for, the other people that came in and complained?
Well, there was no representative here from the developer, they didn't come in,
The Billis people? No.
exactly, so,
Let's table it until further
Yeah.
notice.
okay. Yeah, we'll just keep it as an open agenda item.
Right.
They can come in at any point they want.
Well, okay.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know. We'll carry it for a couple meetings, but
Yeah,
some
we
point
took care of the
it becomes
personnel
a-
wireless, so let's.
Yeah, as was instructed, the engineer would speak to them outside of.
Yeah.
That's all you missed.
All right, so now we're back to planner's plate. Oh, no, I'm sorry, comments from the planning board.
I think we just talked about that.
Yeah, we did.
Right, so that's comments from the planning board. I figured this was the time that we would talk about, okay, so what's going on? So my understanding from Olivia is that Trish Settles, I
Yeah,
believe is her name, is going to be working with the representative from the town of Blackstone
Okay.
and our office to hash out the details of the sharing of a town planner. In other words, we want to offer the town planner position again. Basically the same deal we were trying to do with Spencer.
Yep.
Only we're going to do it with Blackstone now.
Okay.
And that once they've sorted that,
And they're willing to do it? Or they're.
Blackstone wants to.
And they already have a planner?
No.
No.
Oh.
So they don't have a planner
Same
either.
thing as
No.
we had before.
Same thing we have as
So
before.
if Blackstone gets a planner, and we're out of the loop again.
They could do
Why
the
don't we-
Spencer thing.
Why don't we
yeah.
just put this as a part-time planner for us and not share with anyone?
Because we got about as much chance of filling that as we do
We
of.
haven't done anything. We haven't put it on Indeed. There's been nothing. We put it on our website. How many people are going on our website?
I agree with Mr. Durgan. I think there's more that could have been done.
There's
So
a
I
lot
guess-
more that
I
could
guess
have
what
been
we
done.
wanna do-
It falls on management in our town.
Speaking to our Eve Tapper, talking to her about it, she said, we will probably get more hits by putting it on the mass planners listserv.
Yes, and I have asked our
I saw that.
assistant
That's what I'm
administrator
telling you.
for a revised job description indicating where Spencer had been Blackstone in terms of letting somebody
Right.
know that this was a dual
So-
position. And I've yet to receive anything. This is some days running.
So the last thing I heard was that that's what they were hashing out, to get
Okay.
you the language you want.
I think it basically was just take out Spencer and put in Blackstone. And then defer that to Blackstone and let them say, okay, this is a question, this is a question, or this is a question, and then go from there. And now it looks like we're recreating the whole thing.
Right.
Not for nothing though, but the travel distance between Spencer and Dudley is pretty close. The
Yeah,
travel distance between
Blackstone's
Spencer and
45
Blackstone
minutes.
is like an
Depends on where
hour.
the person's situated. If they're in Uxbridge or Douglas, not so bad.
Yeah, that's not bad.
You know, the other problem we have to consider, I know this is one that we probably don't want to even think about, is we may have an applicant, but we want an applicant that we have some confidence in their ability to do the job.
No.
We had an experience not that long ago.
Well, I don't want to bring that up in open.
Okay, I mean, I know we're gonna jump at the first fish that shows up. But just,
Have them posted on Indeed.
Yeah.
Like every other town position does.
Do we want to?
There you see, oh,
Do we
well,
want to
highway, water
separate it and put
departments.
it as a part-time position too, just
Yeah.
in case?
Didn't
Because
they
we only need
We
a
have an
part-time.
Indeed
Did they say at the
account.
last meeting that the planner in Webster was retiring? Did anybody approach?
I did.
Yes,
I
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I called her. She said she was flattered by the offer, and then she informed me that she has
couldn't
no
afford it.
interest. No. The town planner of Webster who just left, she told me she has an hour-and-a-half commute
Oh, wow.
right now, and she
that's
doesn't.
not Blackstone.
Full-time?
Yeah, I think she was. Yeah, she was full time. In Webster, they call it something. It's the town planner / there's something else in there that they have.
Which does all the grants and stuff too, probably? like
Yeah,
Bill used
probably.
to.
What Bill was doing for free. But
why he left.
yeah, but yeah, no. So in case I apologize, I thought I sent an email out, but in case I didn't make it clear, that's a non-starter. The person from Webster
Okay.
wants to move on to greener pastures, which leaves Webster with that. So Webster needs one. So it's
Yeah,
like,
Webster's gonna be out now.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they need a full-time one.
yeah.
And I've been seeing on the listserv several
Yeah.
other towns out there.
There are about 4 of them
Yeah.
currently looking for.
Yeah, actually, I think you sent me
If
some.
they-
Some part-time.
If they
and some
find a
full-time.
full-time one, they could probably talk to them, if it's a young person, why couldn't they work 15 hours a week for us?
I don't know, what Mr. Clark was reading, we're way underpriced.
Well, yeah, the town of Acton was like 119,000 a year.
So priority would be, we gotta get something on the mass planners list.
Yeah, we do.
And get it out there, and we're probably, unfortunately, we're probably gonna get somebody with not a lot of experience. But even if we just get somebody who's really good clerical,
That's,
It's 42 or something,
Right.
right? Our planner.
right, that brings me to my second point. I talked about it a little bit before the meeting started. In speaking with Aura on her way out, and Olivia, the plan now is to go back to what we had before. We had Caitlin was full-time, and she was doing the job of conservation clerk, planning board clerk, and other things, I don't know what. And she left. At around the same time, Aura came and said, hey, I know, I retired, but I'd be interested in doing some part-time work. So that's how we ended up getting Aura to do what she was doing. But then they quickly turned Aura's position into, even though it was part-time, now she's conservation, she's this. She's leaving. She had given her 2 weeks' notice. She was gonna be gone officially as of last Thursday. But they convinced her, my understanding is they've convinced her to stay on for a few more weeks to do conservation and the other stuff she was doing, but not planning.
And dump stickers.
That's one of her other
What was the other
jobs
one?
and everything.
Dump stickers.
Dump stickers, yeah.
While they find a new full-time admin. So they wanna basically find another Caitlin, full-time. And when that happens, we'll get our clerk back.
Or some time for a clerk.
Right, right. So, that's where that stands. Olivia seemed optimistic about the prospects of being able to find another full-time admin, as opposed to the monumental
Town
task
planner.
of town planner. Right. So, that's what I have for you right now. If I get anything else, I'll pass it on to all you guys. But it's not great.
Should we meet with?
The August meeting's gonna be exciting,
Well, yeah. we've got,
especially from the chair.
Well, we've got CMRPC Representative Wyrick, Jane Wyrick will be coming in on the 13th of August.
Oh, yeah, yep.
So Trish Settles is going to be the go-between as far as the agreement between.
It sounded like it. You saw that email,
Yeah,
right?
I didn't see that she was going to get that actively involved in this. I think she was looking to maybe introduce the parties and then take it back and then let them work it out. I think we need to, if you're willing and I can find some time, maybe we can meet with
Double team
Olivia
them?
and get that, something we can get out down there on the mass planners, at least anyway,
Okay.
job description revision.
All right. Why
And,
don't we,
maybe even make some adjustment in terms of financing too of the money. But
why don't we touch base someday next week and?
next week I'm away, but.
Okay, perfect.
Week after. I'm sorry.
All right, any other comments from the planning board?
Do we have to cancel next, well, not next week, but 2 weeks meeting, the 23rd?
Yeah, we just won't hold it.
We just don't hold, we don't have to do anything, just.
Usually you send a clerk, the town clerk.
Well, we might leave that open if we have an applicant for consideration at that point somewhere, some miracle has occurred.
Or if an A&R plan.
If an A&R comes in, so that's a good question. I don't want to send the clerk a note right now and say,
No, you
cancel
gotta-
it, because what if an A&R comes in on Monday?
You gotta do it like 2 or 3 days before that.
Yeah,
Right.
48 hours you have to
And
post.
great.
That's it.
When's our next meeting date?
Looks like 23rd.
That's another thing that Laura was probably responsible for, I
The schedule
suspect,
says
is
27th.
going to the town clerk and getting everything posted
Already
in
got that
time to
wrong.
meet
14
the
days
open
out.
meeting laws requirements.
Yeah, because somebody drops it off. The
Yeah,
selectman's office and we don't know anything about it.
It's a whole can of worms.
Okay, so August 27th is our next meeting date, correct?
July
July
23rd.
July
A month
23rd,
ahead.
No, I mean,
the 13th of August.
We're only in July right now.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Well, when's the next
That was a
selectmen's
so
meeting?
great guy.
Maybe
Oh,
we
they met
can,
on Monday.
maybe we can ask them on, where do you want us to
Does
drop
he-
off paperwork?
somebody just tell me what day they want me to
23rd.
contact the clerk.
I would say I would say you gotta contact her on the Monday before our meeting.
Does anybody have a calendar?
So
That
the
would
20.
be the 21st, right?
19th?
No, the Monday before,
Yeah,
the
would that be the
23rd,
19th?
so it'd be.
Oh, yeah,
21st.
you're right, all right.
It'd be the 21st, yeah.
Okay, all right.
21st, you need to.
So July 21st.
Yep. If there's no A&R plans, we cancel the meeting.
July 21st. Cancel the July
23rd.
23rd
Oh, we would have to either cancel or post an agenda.
meeting.
And if it's an A&R plan, we just have that on the agenda, that's it.
That's it.
Jesus.
Keep it short, Mr. Edmondson, Mike.
Yeah. Okay. Comments from the audience?
No, I just, can I speak?
Yeah,
Sure.
that's you.
Oh, yes, please sign in if you would. Appreciate it.
Okay, hi, it's Grace Trinaki. You sent me a letter regarding wetland, Paula Lane. and
Stop you right there.
Okay.
You sent me a letter. You just said that
Right,
to
and you
me.
responded to, okay? And you said, my understanding of the letter was that it's not wetland. I have Register of Deed proof that it is wetland. It is in the Registry of
Who
Deeds.
sent you a letter?
You did,
You got a letter from me?
correct? Yes, regarding the Paula, because Mr. Allen cut down trees on wetland, so I questioned it.
What was the
On
date of
Paula
that
Lane?
email?
I'm sorry, I should have printed out the letter, brought it to you.
I could pull up my email right now.
You signed it as the chairman of planning board,
What was the date?
both of you.
What was the date?
I apologize, I should have brought the letter, I thought you would know. My understanding with the letter is that,
Battery's gonna die.
I did read the letter.
Yeah, I read the letter too.
Okay, let's just do this easy. Go to my sent email, because that's not gonna be a lot. Come on. Conservation, oh yeah, okay. Paul Lane tree removal.
correct.
Okay, let's see what this says here. Okay. I copied you on an email.
Correct.
This was in response to Ora Finn sent you a letter. Well, she sent a letter to Eva Chinaki.
Correct, my daughter.
Okay, so not to you. She sent it to your daughter. I replied to Ora, my
Okay,
clerk,
all right, so.
telling her, thank you for the update. Most likely, any plan showing the limits of any wetlands would be too old to be considered valid. Because my clerk had said to me that you brought in a plan from 1992. And I was just explaining, as a matter of fact, that in Massachusetts, wetland delineation is valid for 3 years.
Okay, so.
If you have wetlands flagged, it's good for 3 years. Then you have to come into conservation and ask for an extension if you want it to be considered for longer, and they may or may not grant it, but they're never gonna grant it, they're never gonna extend it for 20 years, is I guess the point I was making. So that was the question. Since then,
Okay.
I have gone on to Mass Mapper and then Mass GIS and looked at the limits of the wetlands for that whole area.
Okay,
And there's a huge swampy area off to the, I don't remember exactly what direction, but Tom, you know what I'm talking about. There's a big swamp back there. Stump swamp, whatever. Actually, I just occurred to me, are you recusing yourself? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'll accuse myself, but I think I know what you're talking about. That, but that's behind Marty's Lookers.
Right, it goes off that way. So I guess the point
You're talking
was,
way down the road.
the map that I saw that you brought in that shows Paula Lane and Circle Drive, that whole area right there, as far as the state of Massachusetts DEP is concerned, there are no wetlands in that area. Furthermore, the map that you brought in, I believe there was a question. So that being said, back up for a second, that all is conservation. This is not the Conservation Commission. So right off the bat, we're not dealing with
I
that.
understand that, but since you did state, and my understanding was the way the letter that was forwarded to me saying, wetland, then after so many years, no longer wetland. Per Massachusetts law, I thought a wetland is for, 100, 200 years or more.
No, that's not how it works.
Well, then
So
how come the Registry of
I'll give
Deed
you an example.
has that lot as
put in
wetland
ro-
and
you
all
put
those
in-
7
you
houses
put in
in front of
roads
it are
and-
built on wetland?
Okay,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Explain it to me.
So at the end of the letter, I said, regardless, I defer to Concom. I'm not sure if you understood what Concom was. My clerk would understand it. It's Conservation Commission. So you need to go to Conservation Commission.
We did.
And you need to make this argument with them.
Okay, we did, but I
You need to
just,
tell them that you believe those are wetlands, and they will explain to you why they don't believe it's wetlands. Or maybe they'll tell you that, oh geez, you're absolutely right. We dropped the
We
ball on
did-
this.
we did show her these plans. They are from the Registry of Deed, and she has never seen them. She says it says exactly it's wetland. We dropped them off, and she also asked us to show it to you. It's a copy of, you can go on Register of Deed. Also, there is also a court judgment that we got in private road.
And the judgment for the...
All those houses are on before, I don't understand how they allow him to cut trees on wetland.
And you collect
Mr.
sewage for the polar lane for that private...
You got a judgment there too,
Yeah, so-
court judgment.
I know.
You're saying that he has no access
No.
other than
No, he
this?
doesn't.
He has no access to this?
No.
What is this?
Court judgment.
No. I'm asking him, I understand, but this map right here,
Yes,
That's from
he
the
built
Registry of
20 years ago that... for the wetland.
1992.
Okay.
Okay?
And for-
If you take this, if you go on to the map,
Okay.
the official map for the town of
Yeah.
Dudley, that's not
Okay.
what, this has changed.
How can
Okay,
it,
okay, one second.
He's got this road comes out here now.
That
He's got
house
it all
is,
the way out.
the house is built 20 years ago, 20 years ago.
how
Not
did that
today,
road change? How
20
did
years.
wetland disappear?
This isn't planning board. Relax. This isn't a planning board issue.
I know, how did the wetland disappear after 20
What I'm
years?
saying
I don't
is-
understand. So any wetland I have, I can build on.
Anymore. It goes in like that. This is
When you built the houses 20 years ago, not
Yeah,
today.
that, you should have done this 20 years ago.
Circle for circle.
But this isn't,
That's
Isn't
what
planning
people
board
were
job.
complaining
Judge,
that
for
they
the
were.
judge, you got the
Didn't have a
That's not
legalized
planning board.
access.
So
No, no, no.
Now he's trying to
Right,
build
right.
Originally,
a
David,
three-bedroom
Wetland is for the
apartment,
forever.
family house
originally,
over
he
there.
was saying that there was no outlet,
He had no
but now
exit.
there is.
No.
This comes out now.
This is an illegal outlet. Should have never been put in. It was illegally done by our planning board back in.
Follow
1990s.
my logic. You live in this house here, okay? Let's just say you live in this
No,
house here.
pretend I do. yeah.
Okay, pretend you live here. And to get out of here, his argument is,
You
you
have to
have no way to get out of here without doing this illegal
No,
move.
dude, this is a road.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So that's what
But
that's what I was just trying
Yeah,
to.
but you gotta read the court judgment, it says they are.
There's a court
don't
judgment
have
attached to it
legalized
saying that's a
access.
private road. He has no access. He cannot use
So
it.
Fairview Ave
It's
extension
tráspasing.
is written by the judge in there, that there's
Oh, check,
no
oh,
exit.
check. You flip the paper over and you can see the judgment I highlighted.
This isn't on the agenda.
No.
We
Can't
asked
take
to
any
be put-
action on it, not that I know what action we would
We asked to
expect
be
us to
put on
take
an
on a
agenda, but
1992 plan.
that land plan doesn't change. Land doesn't change. If it's wetland, it's
This is
wetland.
not a planning board issue.
Okay.
So you're at the wrong
The
board.
reason I came is because I got a, you know, Aura forwarded a letter from the
Yes,
planning
I
board.
understand. He did send you a letter.
Oh, shit. Cicho, już nie mów.
Dlaczego planning board napisał?
Why did the planning board send the, yeah, why did the, that's what I understand. Why did the planning board respond to Aura? I don't understand that.
It's not a big gotcha moment. I don't care how much you want to make it sound like it is. You think you got me?
No, I'm not saying that. I just want to understand
Because the
it.
chair of the planning board responded to his clerk
Okay.
and just tried to inform her of the situation regarding how long wetland delineations are good for, and that it was in fact not a matter for the planning board, that it should go before conservation.
Okay, we'll go
And you
back to
think because I
conservation.
sent that letter,
Okay.
because I sent that email,
Okay.
that somehow you've got me, and now it's my problem?
That is not true. We just want an
What problem?
That's
explanation.
your problem now.
It's my problem now.
Yeah, planning board.
Okay, at
That's a
this
problem.
point,
Toshek, uspokój się.
I would like to take, I would accept the motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we do have a invoice.
Stonebridge Press.
Yeah, a payment voucher. As I understand it, we're looking at a Stonebridge Press invoice for the amount of $73.50. I'm looking at this, and it shows a past due amount.
So, I just had this dumped on me,
Ty,
and
Okay, thank you.
so. So we have this, let's see, this is the minutes. I put these in here for safekeeping. We did that. But I've got all of this, which I guess, so
Oh, okay, those are the ads.
that's the ads. May 30th, May 23rd, May 23rd. But then as far as like invoices go, oh, wait a minute. Is that what this is? 73.50.
That's one of them.
That's one of them, okay. So maybe the other one's in here?
There's a total due of $382.20.
Right.
So I would
The
say,
7350 was
The agenda
credited.
indicates 73.50.
right, but that's just for the last one. It says issued by
It
not.
says credit ad included,
Issued
minus 73.50.
by not cashed? Check was issued, but not cashed?
So it says Unibank payment.
I never received it.
This is gonna be a big file.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she signed it off right here. For 2 Carroll Drive. You're gonna have to, I think we should go with the 73.50 for now. 'cause
Okay.
it looks
All
like
right,
the other one's
Mr.
already-
Chairman, I would move that we approve the invoice, for Stonebridge Press, in the amount of $73.50.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Just one town notice, we have a 15th anniversary celebration at the library tomorrow evening from 4 to 7. Good time for all. If I may, the library is one of those few things in the town of Dudley that are not age-specific. You can't age in, you can't age out. No matter what age you are, you're in the right place. The only other things that would apply would be those with red lights and blue lights, and you don't want to see them coming. So Library, 4 to 7 tomorrow. Mr. Horn, and Miss Horn, Mrs. Horn won't be there, we understand, but we certainly would welcome your attendance.
Thank you.
Got your liquor license?
One-day liquor
You probably
license?
could have made a lot of money.
It's a good place to be, but you don't want to have that much fun.
Read and feed.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn, second.
Motion's been made.
Aye, aye.